You know what I'm just realizing? You're not in the white room anymore.
No, no, I
How
blurred
did
my
you get back
background.
in the office?
Well, I blur. I if I because I hit blur. Okay, you guys. For those who aren't watching, we record on Zoom, and I was playing around on Zoom the other day and did a virtual background, and I cannot figure out how to turn it off. And I know all of you are rolling your eyes because it's supposed to be really easy, but it's not. And I've tried everything. I've Googled everything. I've gone into chat forums. I've deleted the app from my computer, re-downloaded it, and it thinks I'm in this like futuristic space building.
Well, now you're just blurred in the
Well, it's
background.
blurred, but if I take it off of blur, it puts me back in that white building.
I thought that's what we decided.
No,
Oh, you're back
I'm
in the
here.
office
Yeah, I'm back
space.
in the.
You're so
I'm just gonna keep it
corporate.
the office. I'm so corporate. I feel like I'm. What's that show, Severance?
Oh, it does.
It's a hundred
It's
percent
like the
severance, and like
severance
no one's
office.
working with me. I'm like working really late at night because I'm trying not to get severed or whatever. I haven't watched the show, but
You don't even know what the
I
premise
don't even know the
is.
show. But it does look like the
Are
branding
you
for
you wouldn't
severance.
know then that you're being your innie right now, which
I don't
is
know what an innie
yeah,
is except for an
exactly.
inward, like a
Belly button.
belly button. Yeah.
The other interesting thing about what's happening is that your head slightly disappears from time to time. Like if you lean too far one way, it
Yeah.
goes out of frame and then you get blurry and it's like, or there's double you. There's a lot going on
It's
your
all
on your
very
screen
weird.
right now.
So I apologize. It may be this way for the rest of this
It
podcast,
may
for the
be
rest of time.
for the rest of
I
our
don't know.
lives.
I'm actively working on a solution, but there may not be one. I'm in the
Well, I
vortex.
said this to you. I mean, this is almost kind of perfect because this week on the podcast we had Marv and it was astrology based. It's all about November astrology. And today, when this podcast comes out, is the first day of a very serious Mercury retrograde. And I was like, well, you are
Well,
just
here
starting
we
it off
go.
with a bang. Of
I'm
course.
glad to be on brand.
Yeah, you really are working with the astrology right now, even if you
And
don't
it's
want to
like I don't
be.
even have to understand it.
Yeah.
Like in fact, it makes more sense if I don't. Cuz like I have tried.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
don't think I'm stupid, but proving to maybe be.
No, you're not. Astrology speak is just a different kind of language. And until you learn the language, it can be a little overwhelming. I
Yeah.
will say, I feel like you've made a lot of progress in unpacking the themes of astrology. I think what confuses you is when I start throwing in, like, well, this planet is doing this and this is
And this planet
retrograde.
is in
And
this house. I'm like, how does a planet get in a house? Like it's I don't understand.
right. But that's
Yeah.
why you and I decided to start unpacking astrology with themes and how people can apply the astrology that Marv gives and the lessons that Marv gives, maybe a little more tangibly to their life. And so I was telling you, one of the main things Marv and I talked about this month was the reflection of relationships, like relationships as mirrors. And I know I've talked about that a lot on this podcast and how that has been my biggest teacher in this lifetime is just seeing myself react in different relationships. I think it's so easy for all of us to kind of throw, well, that person's an asshole, or oh my God, my ex is such a dick. You know, like we can easily
Yeah.
blame other people. But the point is, we were also in those relationships. So even if your ex or your old bestie or your old coworker or your old boss was terrible, they were probably here to teach you some sort of lesson. And if you were actively participating in the relationship, there probably is something that was being reflected back
Right.
to you, you know? And so we have to take a little bit of ownership there. But so I sent you a bunch of like thoughts on that topic. And I thought that your reaction was so interesting. And we should just be honest with the listeners about it because I think so many people probably feel the exact same way that you do about this. And as you mentioned, there can be a lot of shame that comes up if you feel like, oh, I'm not doing this right or doing it
Yeah.
in the best way that I possibly could. And there's no point in that, right? There's no point in shaming ourselves about any
Right.
of this
Yeah.
stuff.
And what I said was, I when I read these things, I'm like, oh God, I don't do relationships right. Am I broken? And I was like, I'm happy to talk about it out loud, even though there is shame that comes along with it. But I feel like maybe there's a reason why I'm single. I'm not doing it right. So if I want to find a healthy relationship, then I need to do something differently. Um, and it's funny, like even just as you were talking, I was thinking, like everyone says relationships are work,
Sure. Yeah.
and maybe the framing of that is just not clear to people. Like we think that we need to work really hard at the relationship, but I think what the real work is you have to work on yourself within a relationship. And that's why it's hard because none of us want to look in the mirror ever
Sure.
and think that we're the problem.
Absolutely not. And I think what you're saying is so spot on because all like you can be coasting along in your life and probably if you're single, this has happened to me in my single days. I can think I'm fucking nailing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not getting triggered. Things are going the way you want. You get the downtime that you want. You can live life according to your own rhythms, your own rules, and there's really no objection to that. Well,
Right.
then when you start into a relationship, it's not that necessarily your partner has to add a bunch of problems to that, but it's just another human with a whole
Yeah.
nother set of ways of thinking, rhythms, needs, like all of those factors. And so it does probably like bump up against yours at some point. And so you have
Yeah.
two choices. You can either neglect the relationship and not work together, or you can bump up against those things and kind of self reflect and go, where is this asking me to grow? What is this bringing up for me? Was that really what was happening in this relationship, or am I getting triggered from an old relationship? Like, there's always kind of more to the story if you allow there to be the
Right.
space for that.
Yeah. Well, and I think I know personally I'm guilty of it. So I would hope that, I'm not just some weird outlier, but I feel like because um, we all it's a very natural thing to want to be right? So it's a very quick initial reaction when something doesn't start to feel right in a relationship that it's definitely the problem with the other person.
Oh, for sure.
And um and in those is that when a mirror moment is that like a mirror moment where you have to like look yourself in the mirror and be like, wait a minute, like I'm at an impasse here because of something. I'm very quick to put the judgment on the person that I'm in the relationship with and blame them, but it's actually a moment where I can be like, wait, how do I grow and change from this moment to see if we can
Mhm.
get past it?
I think that's
Like,
a
is
really
that
good
what a
way to
mirror
say it.
moment is?
For me, yes. Like, so I'll explain what I think a mirror moment is. It's really hard for me to take you seriously though, because half of your head
No,
keeps
I'm like,
disappearing.
oh, just meet me in season
Like,
2 of Severance or season 3.
I literally was focusing so hard on what you were saying just then because it was a beautiful statement, but half of your head kept disappearing. And so I kept just wanting
Well,
to die laughing.
if I move the right amount away, like the microphone disappears. It's
All
odd.
of it. It's just
Yeah.
the
I don't
oddest thing.
understand. Like, and it's the microphone is not moving.
Okay, so let me remember where we were. I was going to explain to you what I believe a mirror moment is. The best way that I can think about it or explain it is because for me, I did not get to this full understanding right away. Like when people used to say, "Like attracts like," or you can only meet someone where you've only met yourself. Like all of those statements. I remember being in really dysfunctional relationships with people who had qualities that I was like, I am nothing like this person. So how is this the mirror? Because I thought that it meant that someone else's bad behavior was also must be what I do too. And we would be so different that just could never click for me. Like I did not get it for the longest time. And then in the relationship I had before this one, which was just a really terrible relationship for me as far as like the level of health, it ultimately taught me a ton about myself, but it was just a really dysfunctional dynamic between the two of us. And like I really, really clicked with this mirror thing. And it wasn't like, oh, you're like that person or he's even like you. Like we really didn't have very many similarities at all. But I think what I would say is that certain behaviors would trigger certain things in me. And like for instance, let's say you're in a relationship and you're like, this person doesn't pay me enough attention. Like they're constantly on the go, they work all the time, they have so many hobbies or whatever. I feel like I'm the bottom of the totem pole and not important. And so that becomes a massive fight between the two of you.
Right.
Like let's say that's like the example. Well, I used to think, well, I don't do that to people. Like I value my relationships, I prioritize people in my life. So even when it would come at the sacrifice of my own needs, I would be putting people in the position to either be on a pedestal or whatever. So I was like, how is that a mirror? Whatever. But you know what the mirror was? It wasn't that I did the behavior in the same way. It was that I was doing that to myself. I was putting myself at the bottom of a totem pole. So of course I'm only going to be
By
attracting.
allowing that pattern
Yes,
to
and
be how you were
allowing
treated.
myself to be in a relationship that wasn't showing up for me or able to like participate in my life, like things like that. And so that would be the thing that was being reflected, but it was because I was doing it to myself. I was dismissing myself and my own needs. I was putting myself at the bottom of the totem pole in life, like everything in my life, work, whatever it was, relationships, friendships, I don't know, anything you could think of came before myself and prioritizing my own needs. So if you're not taking care of that and you're not showing up for yourself, how could you possibly expect someone else to do the same thing, or to treat you any differently?
Right,
So
right.
that's the mirror. The mirror is about the same behavior within you or what it's reflecting in you. Like, I'm trying to think of another example. If you get cheated on, for instance, it's not
Mhm.
like because you're not worthy, but do you believe you're not worthy? Like, it's always something to do with someone else, but it's like,
Well, and then you probably can mirror the situation. Like if being cheated on makes you feel unworthy, then
mhm,
you start to treat yourself and believe that you are unworthy. Like
sure.
sometimes that is like I mean, would that be a mirror moment too?
Well, it could be, but it's ultimately like, where did it first start for you that you didn't think that you were valuable enough? And like, you just keep drawing in the same type of partner until you heal the wound in you. But like, what I realized in that relationship that I was describing that was so dysfunctional or whatever, it was so good for me ultimately because it really brought me to the truth about me with me.
Right.
And after that relationship, it changed the entire way that I date or see relationships or value relationships in my life or participate in relationships. And I don't think I would have been able to do that had I not healed whatever the wounding was in me, that I didn't value my own self enough to not dismiss myself, to not
Right.
like to take care of my needs, to do the self care that I needed to be doing to prioritize for myself.
It was your rock bottom in relationships. Like
Yeah. I
this
mean,
was
there
a
was a couple.
pattern that you were able to recognize that you were doing, and finally at a point you were like, "Wait a minute! Like
Yes.
I'm the common denominator here."
Right. And I
You
think people
know?
get tied up on that a little bit because it's like, when you're saying, oh, I'm the common denominator, then it can feel like it dismisses the painful behavior the other side was participating in. And it's like, no, that's not, that never excuses bad behavior from any partner or boss or friend or whatever. But if you're the common denominator, you do have to look at, why do I keep showing up for relationships like this? Or why do I keep picking relationships like this? And
Right.
that is what we have control over, or that is something that like comes from something along the lines for us. My
Right.
question for you would be like, when you were talking about um doing relationships, I'm doing air quotes right now, of like wrong or whatever, and there was just a lot of shame I think that came up. What was that about, like, specifically? Because it wasn't
Well,
necessarily the mirror thing.
no, but I think it's like the depth of thought when it comes to um a particular situation. And really getting more caught up. I tend to get more caught up in like what that moment is versus what that moment means.
Okay, give us an
And
example because I'm not
I
quite getting it.
mean, like if I don't want to get too specific, well, I doubt my ex listens, but like, we would have this blow up fight that was literally about nothing. And and then there was a pattern of apology, come back the next day, apologize, I didn't mean that, blah blah. And I would get so wrapped up in like just the way that the fight went down that I was just I was just like, this is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. Rather than being like, let me try to make sense of what actually is like,
Yeah, like getting
what led us
curious.
to this?
Right.
Why are we repeating this pattern? What like why is it that something that is seemingly so stupid and benign actually driving the wedge between us versus being like having the courage to be like, maybe this just is, we're not compatible,
Mhm.
for whatever reason it is.
Mhm.
Um, and sort of wallowing in the like, we're fighting for no reason. This is stupid. And so in hindsight, I think I failed um, because ultimately, this was a pattern in my last relationship. And I had to say, like, hey, the next time this happens, like, I'm done. Like, I cannot continue to do this. And I don't think, and I do think that was the right thing for me to do, because it would have just been this cycle of that repeating and apologies, and, words and actions are two very different things. And the actions were showing me this is not going to work. But what I didn't do in hindsight is really reflect on, like, how did we get to this pattern? How do we, like, if I really wanted to work through it, like, I feel like I saw an exit strategy that made it easier, even
Mm,
though that's not, I didn't believe that that's what I wanted. I thought that I wanted it to work. But I feel like in hindsight, when I look back and I'm like, well, I took the exit ramp.
mm,
Maybe I didn't want it to work. And I was ignoring that and not working through the real why of it all.
mhm.
So that's why I think there's shame and it feels like failure in some ways. Because I know it wasn't just him. Like, there were reasons why he was coming at me in the ways that he was doing it. And rather than us sitting down and being like, hey, let's figure this out. Like, it was
Right.
almost like I'm sorry, I won't do that again. And let's just move on. And
Mm.
you just go right back to the same place that you were. There was no growth happening.
Well, because 'cause you're not actually healing the wound, right? So
Right.
you're just, like, putting the Band-Aid on it, and it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I mean, it could have been honestly a positive relationship for both of you if you use it now. And it's like, I would
Right.
also wonder, are these patterns that you've seen in other relationships? Because if so, that's what they say for us is like, we'll keep picking the same thing until we heal the wound, right? And like
Right.
mine always looked a little different. They looked very different physically too. Like none of my boyfriends ever looked the same or anything like that. But when I really got down to it, there was always an unavailability or sometimes an addiction or, whatever. Like I had a very similar picker ultimately that would draw me into these relationships. And it's because like I was unavailable to myself. So it's
Right.
like, of course, I'm going to keep drawing these things in until I heal that within me, until I value myself enough to go, yeah, if somebody isn't available to me, I don't want to be in that relationship. Like, I don't need to
Right.
sit here and
Yeah.
try to convince or say it a million different ways so that they hear me. It's just like, no, then it's just probably not compatible, like you said, or it's time to move on.
But also, I was sitting here even thinking about the things that I just said. And I'm like, God, how um egotistical and, like, short-sighted of me. Like, I by taking the off ramp and not really digging into it and picking the scab and
Hmm.
trying to understand where it is all coming from, like, it was I just put it all on him. Like, I'm like, by me saying the next time you do this, I'm out,
Sure.
like, is a defense mechanism, because at a certain point, like,
Sure.
you can only take an apology so many times. But we were never really working through what the real issue was.
Yeah.
And all I was doing was saying, you have to fix this or we're done. And, I guess I owe him an apology for that. Like, but now it's a realization in me that I'm like, okay, like, I have to, in those moments in the future, I have to recognize whether or not I really want to fix it. Because
Yes.
if I don't want to fix the relationship, then it should be one of those things where it's like, hey, let's just, we've enjoyed our time together. Let's not waste any more of each other's time.
Absolutely.
Or say, hey, what's the real issue here and why am I having trouble coping with it or working through it or whatever it is? So I think it would be interesting for me to sit with myself. I mean, those feelings and a lot of those things are so far in the past now that I don't know that I could dredge it up to, like, really put myself under the microscope,
Hmm.
because clearly however he was acting was in reaction to however I was treating him. It's not, he was not a broken person that would just crack, like,
Yeah.
in
But
those moments. Like, it had something to do with me. But in the end, I was just like, you're the one acting this way. You got to fix it. Otherwise, I'm
hmm
out.
hmm
And I don't regret that decision, but I don't think that I handled it in the best way for me,
So
even.
some of your shame from what I'm hearing has just been about the fact that you probably didn't reflect and that's what you're talking about. Like,
Right.
am I doing this right? And I think it's like, of course, you're doing it now, you might do it different tomorrow. Like we can
Right.
only do what we know until we know better, like that Maya Angelou quote. And it's like, when you know better, do better. And so, like,
Right.
now you do. And like you said, you can always go back and try to make amends, or not necessarily that to get back together, but if you feel like you owe that, like, that is an option. But it's reminding me a little bit of what we talked about last week about the Thais Gibson podcast and how we're just not really taught the reality of relationships, right? So, like,
Mhm.
we just think you're supposed to have this picture perfect thing. Or I remember thinking, oh, I've been in therapy for such a long time. I'm just going to have the most magical, easy relationship that's just going to plop into my life and ta, everything's going to be great, because I've really been working on myself. And sure, every time I go to therapy or went to therapy and did work on myself and did all the other stuff that I've done, you learn stuff, right? But are you integrating it into your life? Like, is it actually being applied into your relationships? And like, the only way to do that is to practice and to
Yeah.
learn and to keep doing it on repeat. And like, I mean, I think I talk about on here all the time how I feel like I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in, but it's not because we don't bump up against each
Right.
other. It's
You've
more
just figured
about,
out how to work in a relationship.
or make repair when we don't,
Yeah.
when the stuff comes up, like what you're saying about your past one, instead of just shutting it down and being like, this can't happen again, being like, why does this keep happening? Like, getting really curious about what was going on for both of y'all in those moments, and
Yeah.
like triggering it, and then trying to own your part of it. Like, they say, your side of the street, like, take care of your side of the street. And like, it's still uncomfortable, like, and
Yeah.
nobody gets it exactly right all the time. And so it's just an interesting concept to continue thinking about, what is this reflecting to me? And if I am acting out or acting out of a trigger in some sort of way, how can I take ownership of that and like do something different? And that's where I've found the most joy. Even though it sounds like a lot of work, it's like that is actually where you start to meet each other at a whole new depth that you probably couldn't have before, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of surrender in it too.
Totally.
Like, because I know I was often operating in a point of defensiveness, which automatically made me feel like I was in the right.
Hmm.
Because when you feel like something is being done to you,
Hmm.
it's often hard to see the role that you're playing in it, because you're like, this is happening. I had nothing to do with this,
Right.
like, you're acting crazy. But um in hindsight, it's like, no, you have to kind of like really surrender to the relationship is what's happening. And then you are just two piece ingredients in that relationship. So if you're gonna something is you're taking energy from each other, and it's
Hmm.
never just a one-way street.
No, and the hard part is because I think I'm probably on the opposite side of the scale than you by nature. Like, you will go to defensive and shut down, and I'm the emotional one in a relationship,
You're like,
right?
we're
So
gonna talk about
I'm like,
this.
let's talk. I'm crying. I'm feeling all the things. I'm angry or whatever. And I can't just not talk about stuff or like dive in or feel it. And I think it can go with what you're saying about how you're like, well, I would just get defensive, so I think I'm right. The person with the big feelings often gets made out to be crazy. And it's like, I'm not reacting to nothing. Like, that's what I've always said. Like, I'm not
Right.
just pulling this out of my ass to pick a fight for fun.
Yeah, I don't
Like that.
enjoy this.
Right. So I think it is very reflective of you to say that about, or to have that awareness, just
Do you,
that some of the defensiveness could be protecting almost even too.
yeah. I mean, do you think any of this is male female energy situation? I
Yeah,
mean,
I do. And I think it often can be, if you know anything about attachment theory, like the anxious person is probably always going to be the one approaching more, feeling the bigger emotions. And then the avoidant would be doing something like what you're describing, where you're defensive, you shut it down, you say, if this happens again, we're done. There's the threats of abandonment because of that, and those kind of things. So I think there's a lot of factors, but I
yeah.
don't think it's probably all men and all women. But I do
Yeah.
think in some situations, yeah, like guys are more programmed to not be overly emotional. So they're just going to shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's it. Normally, I probably wouldn't have thought in such a blanket way, but like, you're a female, I'm a male, and just looking at how
Hmm.
different we are.
Hmm.
But I do think it's uh, just in my friendships, I feel like my female friends are much more likely to challenge me and try and get me to get a place of surrender or
Mhm.
vulnerability to talk about what I'm feeling. Whereas that's not necessarily with my male friends. That's not to say that it doesn't exist because I definitely have some
No, but
deeper
it
male
is more
friendships
rare.
than
Yeah.
others, but I feel like there is definitely a masculine feminine thing in that dynamic, which is interesting when you think about like me being in a same sex relationship. It's like
Right.
you have two people that are struggling probably with the same lack of ability of communication
Oh, that
or
is
or
interesting. Yeah.
access to those feelings or those emotions or whatever it is. And
It's
um
also just programming because I think like as women, we are
crazy.
more I'll
I'm
fucking kill
kidding.
you. I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
Um,
JK. But I mean it.
no, I think that women's emotions are more embraced throughout childhood, our lifetime. And you guys were taught from day one, like, don't feel, be tough,
Swallow it.
act
Yeah.
out, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And so it always makes me think of that joke where I mean, my boyfriend and I laugh about this all the time because if one of his friends is going through something, like let's say one of his friends was going through a divorce and they go play golf. And I know everyone listening has seen these memes on Instagram and stuff like that because this is so active in so many male and female relationships. But they'll go play golf and he comes home and he's like, "Oh my God, Todd's getting divorced." And like if that was said to me, I'd be like, "Oh my God, what happened? Why?" And he'd be like, "I don't know. He just said it just wasn't working out." And I'm like, "Wait, well, when did this happen? And what was the catalyst? And like, did she want it or did he file it? What like I have a million questions."
Well,
And
100%.
he's always just like, "I don't know, ma'am." I'm just like, I just know the broad
I just know the
strokes.
fact. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you guys just don't necessarily dive into the deeper things. And especially I think a lot of men don't want to push if it is a sensitive topic because they're like, it's not my place. Whereas I'm
Right.
like, oh no, I'm fucking getting in there with you. We need to know you're
Let's
okay.
take
How
your
can I
shoes
help
off. We're staying
you?
a while. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get cozy under the blanket because we're gonna be here a minute. So
I'm putting on Delilah.
if only.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think it could be a little bit male and female, but I don't think that's just across the board.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like, I definitely think it plays into, it definitely played into my last relationship. The fact that it was like two male. And we also had like very similar, even though we didn't grow up in similar regions, like we had pretty similar backgrounds. We were a lot alike in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
And I think being a strong presence that actually is pushing down your feelings was true for both of us.
Yeah, so then it
You
was just
know?
coming out
Yeah.
wildly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not the type of mirroring I want to do though. Like I actually Googled before we got on, like, what is a mirror moment?
Oh, what did it say?
And well, I found two. There's one is like a literary thing, and it's like
Okay.
where a character like reaches a point in a story where they're like, you have to go right or left.
Okay.
You either stay on the path or you do the thing to fix what's wrong, and one of
Okay.
them makes you a failure, one of them makes you a hero. So that's a mirror moment. But this one, I mean, it's just an AI generated thing. And it says it's a moment of sudden clarity where a person sees himself or their
Mm-hmm.
situation in a new, often unexpected light,
Mm-hmm.
leading to self discovery or a change in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which that made more sense in this context to me,
Mm-hmm.
versus um, the sort of narrative version of it. Um, and but it's different than the idea of mirroring to my I guess it is kind of mirroring to yourself because you're seeing yourself in a new perspective suddenly. Um and um but I guess that's kind of a singular view of it too. I don't know. I'm
You're talking
confused.
yourself in circles right now, and I'm
I
just
am.
watching. I'm
I'm
like,
like,
where's he gonna
God.
go with this? This is
I'm like looking at
fascinating.
myself on the screen. I'm like, this is a mirror. Am I the only one here?
Well, you're like looking at yourself on the screen and you're like, am I going to be a tree or am I going to blend into the office right now?
Am I
Like,
about to get
whichever way you
wiped?
shift, we really don't know. It's a guessing game. I mean, I think the way that I look at it too, though, we're talking about it in relation to love relationships right now, but I look at it all the time in my life and because it's coming up literally all the time. Like, there was a work situation last week that was really difficult and I got removed from this job because the producer and I were, it was just this whole thing and it was not my fault. and I got pissed because of that. Like it was something that was not on me, but I was getting blamed for.
You took the fall.
Yes. And in the past, I have just taken the fall and I've just tried to do, what I can do behind the scenes to make myself work through that or be the bigger person. And it was so interesting because I was like, huh, here is that thing again. I'm bumping up against that same situation where someone is literally trying to tell me something that happened that didn't happen, or they're trying to say, this is something that's required of you. And I'm like, that was never discussed. Like, none of it was there and blame me, gaslight me, all the stuff. And I would have just taken that in the past, but I was like, you know what? This
Not
is the
today,
same
Satan.
thing. Yeah. So I literally was like, not today, Satan. And my agent went on and handled some things about it. And I stood up for myself. And
Yeah.
it didn't matter for that job. And that was okay. That was a gift in disguise. But I felt like it was an invitation for me to do something different than I would have done in the past. And that's all the mirror thing is. It's like, why is this coming up in your life? And like, this is what I said with Marv. It's just like, why is it here? Because nothing is just coming in by mistake.
Right.
So if it's something you've already been through, maybe you're being invited to do it differently. And then if it's something you've been doing differently and then it comes up again, it's like, maybe that's a test to be like, you sure? You
Yeah,
sure you're
right,
going to keep
right.
doing it that way? And like, it's just this ever evolving road of that. And I don't think that we ever just like get to this destination where we have this all figured out. I think some of it gets easier, but it's just this process. And that's like the life journey.
Well, I mean, honestly, hearing you say it that way is there's real like
Totally.
there's peace in the not feeling stuck of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, you could have in that moment said, fuck it, I need the job. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But then you go home and you're like mad at yourself. You're not
I would have been
there's no
abandoning myself.
yeah, there's no growth there. So
Right.
even though that the path that you chose in the moment is more difficult, and you're teaching yourself, A, you can do hard things and you can survive it, but it also
100%.
opens the door for like more difficult moments that you're going to have to address in your life because you're finally giving yourself the permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time you're growing as a human. Whereas if
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing that, you're just a stagnant human being that's letting life happen to you.
That right there to me is the whole power of this mirror dynamic because
Yeah,
you said it brings peace. And I was thinking the other thing I think it brings is it brings you your power back. Like
right.
it's like taking your power back of your life because you're taking ownership for what's happening in your life. And it's
Right.
like in that
Your
work
fault or not.
situation, well, you're because like in that work situation, I was being blamed for something I didn't do, but I was not willing to own her feelings or her like projection or gaslighting or whatever. And if I had, and I just settled and like stayed back and said, okay, 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 like what I would have done in the past, I would have just stuffed my voice way back down my throat into my stomach. Like I have that pit feeling right now, even describing it, because I'm abandoning myself again, which is what I had such a pattern of doing. And so, really, after it all got said and done and I did something different, what I felt was like, okay, like I actually felt grateful for her again. Like I wasn't angry anymore because I was like, this was a good opportunity for me. Like,
Yeah.
a mentor of mine calls them another growth opportunity or sometimes another fucking growth opportunity, depending on the one it is. But it's just like there's always these growth opportunities. Do we want to take them or not?
Right.
And we don't always do it perfectly, but like I do really feel like the opportunities are always there. And so are you paying attention to what's being reflected to you or not?
Yeah. Well, it's funny too is I keep the phrase like, I'm sure my mom and dad said this to me a million times, but like they'd be like, you need to go in the bathroom and give
Take
yourself
a
a
long
good
look in
hard
the
look in
mirror.
the mirror and figure it out.
Yeah.
And so like that too is like, I mean, I know that is like a literal mirror moment, but when, they also tell you like start your day by looking yourself in the mirror and being like, it's going to be a good day. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of power in that because you're with yourself. Like there is nothing between you and that mirror that can come between your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions at that time. And it's a really powerful like device.
Hmm.
And so I think it's like it could just be a tool. And, if the example that you gave from this last job, if you had walked into the bathroom and looked yourself in the been like, Kelly fucking Henderson, are you going to let this bitch walk all over you today? Are you going to show them what you're made of? And
I
that's
really
kind of
actually did
exactly
tend to
what
do
that
that.
is
Yeah.
in a very figurative way.
No, it 100% was, and that is actually what I did. I didn't physically look in a
I went
mirror.
video.
I know I didn't physically do it, but in my head, it just like I got really pissed at first, like emotions always are the first thing that happen for me is like and I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Then I second guessed myself. That's my other pattern as I go back into like, I'm like, well, maybe you're not seeing this clearly. I question myself. And then it dawned on me, no, this is the same situation where someone is trying to tell you the reality that you are living is not the reality. I'm like, it's gaslighting is the easier way to say that.
Right.
And you have a choice here. You can go
Yeah.
along with it or you can do something different. And it was scary for me. I know it might not be for everyone, but like it still takes me practice to stand up for myself and feel like I deserve to be stood up for. Like there is something in me that always goes, oh, but maybe I'm like overstepping or maybe I'm being, like unfair or whatever. Like I'll always kind of have that back of my voice thing. And I've really stayed with myself on this one and just thought, no, I will not keep doing this in my life. I know where that leads. Like me doing that, I know what that's going to feel like next week. But me standing up for myself and doing something different is going to feel maybe better. I don't know. We'll give it a go and see what
Well, I mean, you certainly don't grow without trying new things,
exactly.
doing it differently. So,
Yeah.
well, I can't wait to get the full story when we're not on the air.
Let's just say she's probably not going to call me again, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
well, whatever. Life be life, and
Yeah. Anyway, I just think it's always, as you were saying, like there's no need to feel shame about this, but I do think it's important to talk about all of the different things that instead of walking through life just like glazed over in a haze and not paying attention to some of the patterns, like really just going on the journey of life school and learning how to show up for yourself and your relationships in whatever way feels right and keep growing, like just to keep looking at it, like it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be fixed overnight or perfect ever. So it's not about that, but just the reflection piece.
yeah. Well, it's funny too because I feel like I have a pattern of wanting to find people or relationships that are easy.
Hmm.
And in hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm like, the best thing for me is to find someone, try to date someone who's going to challenge me and force me to do things differently. That is more combative, and because for me, it's I want the Prince Charming, everything's perfect right out of
Well,
the
doesn't
gate. Like,
everybody?
yeah. Um, but like we never fight, we don't do any of that stuff. But really what I need is someone that is going to like push me to grow and change and reflect and all of those things. Um, so this is, I mean, to me, it's been a really enlightening conversation. I don't know if it's been that way or if I've just talked in circles for the listeners, but
No.
it's been really enlightening because it's maybe I need to be not scared of being in a relationship, but scared of the relationship in some like there should be some level of fear of it not being comfortable.
Mm,
So welcoming the discomfort of being in a relationship.
I think that's a good way to say it because it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, we all want to be comfortable, but like, again, this reminds me back to the 6 stages of a relationship. We do have this magical thinking about what a relationship should look like, and easy is like an interesting word. I think it used to always be thrown in my face. I just want peace. But if you're not willing to show up in a way that brings that to the relationship, that's also something to think about. Like
Yeah.
all the people who would say that to me were the most unpeaceful people
Right.
in this world. And it's like, I can't just bring something to your life that you are not. So, like,
All I mean, really, when someone's saying that, they just want someone they think is hot that will have sex with them.
well,
They
just
don't
to
want to
be,
be in a relationship.
yeah. And it's just like, they don't want to actually have to show up for the relationship. That's very one sided to just be like, well, I just need this to be easier, like this is going to be over or whatever. It's just like, well, people are people. People are humans. We all have needs. We all have like bad
We all have
days.
outside forces, jobs,
Totally.
stress, family,
Right.
you know?
So, like, stuff is going to come up. That's
Yeah.
just reality.
Yeah.
So, yeah, different way to think
Well,
about it. I mean, I feel like this was an interesting chat. And
yeah.
I like that you were honest about just having the shame at the beginning because I think a lot
Yeah.
of people, including myself, have definitely felt that because we do want to get it right
Yeah.
ultimately.
And I think it's a really natural thing. Like when a relationship ends, it's really easy to like look yourself in the mirror and be like, blame, even though it's natural to really want to just blame them because then you don't have to carry any of the shame, but also to silently be like, well, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like maybe I am meant to be single. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing or how to be in a relationship. And I think it's important to share that because if that's what a lot of people are feeling,
Hmm.
that is proof that it has nothing to do with you. You know,
Right.
like not nothing, like because we obviously all need to grow, but it's not just about you. Like, and addressing that shame and being honest about it is the only way around it, really. You know,
Hmm.
otherwise you're just going to wallow in it.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's not cut out for a relationship. I think it's just like how much are you willing to work on yourself and to keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, if you guys are curious, the reason this came up is because Marv and I discussed that this theme would be happening a lot in November with the astrology, and just to really use the reflections that are being mirrored to you to your advantage and to actually work with it versus to feel like life is happening to you,
Mhm.
like Chip said earlier. So go listen to the podcast with Marv. You'll get a deeper dive into the themes astrologically coming for us in November. And you can always email us at theedge@velvetsedge.com if you have any other thoughts on mirrors or how that shows up in your life, the reflections that come to you through relationships. Like, I'm always curious about what you guys are thinking too. So email us at theedge@velvetsedge.com. You can also hit me up on Instagram. I'm at Velvet's Edge. Chip.
I'm at Chip Dorsch. It's ChipDorsch.
And our group, I can't ever do this part right. And our podcast
Podcast.
Instagram, thank you. I was having a brain malfunction, is at Velvet's Edge Podcast. So, again, all of that will be in the description of this podcast for you guys. And as you guys go into the weekend and you're living on the edge, I hope you always remember to
Act casual.
bye.
Bye.